Hello friends, Kisan is here again and welcome you in this video tutorial. This is the continuation of our previous video. There we had started learning a Spring Boot Actuator. So let's continue with that. So here basically our application is running on the port 9090. But if you want to expose, if you want to expose these endpoints, actuator endpoints on the some other port, then you have a provision to do that. So what you have to do, you have to go. So let me start the project first, and we have added DevOps in our com.xml. So if we make any change on our project, then actually we don't need to restart the server again. So that's the feature which is provided by the Spring Boot Dev Tools. So now you can see our project is running on the 9090 port, right? But what we want our actuator endpoints to run on the some other port. Then you have that provision. Here we will have to do management dot port. This is the tag you will have to use, and this I'm going to add a tag 4 times 9. Now all actuator endpoints is going to expose on this port instead 9090. So here you can see Tomcat is started on port number 9999, and again Tomcat started on the ports 9090. So in this case are all endpoints which is defined by the us, which is exposed application endpoints is going to expose on the 9090, and actuator point is going to expose on the this port, right? So which we have assigned right now. So in previous video tutorial we had tried to access this URL, right? Actuator URL /beans, and we got this result. Now let's hit the same, and at this time we are not getting this any response saying that not found, right? Because we have changed our port number for this actuator, right? Actuator endpoints. So that is nothing but the 4 times 9, and let's try to access, and that is accessible, right? That means whatever changes we have done, that is correct, right? So now our actuator is running on the another port, right? And our application endpoints, which is defined by us, which is running on the 9090, right? This is the one of the point I wanted to point out over here. Now how we can customize actuator endpoints, right? Suppose our beans we are going to access like this /beans, but I want to access by my beans. If you access env, then you'll get the all environment related information, right? But I want to customize this endpoint name. Instead of env, I can specify my env, right? So Spring Boot allows customizing endpoints by using Spring properties. Simply mention, you will have to mention the properties you want to customize in your application.properties. You can customize an endpoint in 3 ways. You can enable or disable an endpoint, customize its sensitivity, whether you want to set username or password or not, and also you can set its ID, right? So what I'll do to the properties file, and let's try to customize one of the endpoint, right? So how we can customize, you will have a different tag like endpoints dot, right? Endpoints dot let's say env, we have written the spelling wrong, endpoints, and you can see a lot of auto support is available because I have installed STS. Now you have a different endpoints, right? So endpoint dot actuator dot beans dot group, whatever is the endpoint name, you can access from there. I want to access env, so env, right? So you can see, and ID, right? ID, instead of by default is id is /env, right, env. So I want to rename as my env, right. So this is the id, just I have changed. Now next thing I'm going to add endpoints.env dot sensitive, right, sensitive, and that I'm going to make as false. So I don't want any username password authentication for this to access this endpoint. Now next thing I'm going to enable, right, enable. So whether you want to enable it or disable it. If you make it false, then you will not be able to access this endpoint. So I want to access this endpoint, so I have to make it true. Now if you go here and if you try to access this endpoint, then this will not be available anymore, because we have renamed as my-env. So my-env, if I hit with my-env, then I'll be able to access this. So here you can see a lot of information like local management port, right, that is 4x9, and local server port is 9090 where our application is running, right, and management port is changed to the 4x9, and rest of the information still you are able to get. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to customize your actuator endpoints. Now next thing, how to secure your actuator endpoints, right. So basically here we have made disable this flag, right. We have exposed these things. This is to access any endpoints. Basically user does not require any kind of authentication, and that may be risky, right. So just I want to show you how to secure your endpoints by providing some kind of username and password, basic authentication. So as we discussed, there are only two endpoints like health and info that are by default not sensitive, right. But other endpoints are sensitive and hence require authentication to access, right. To access these sensitive endpoints, you can either disable the sensitivity or secure it using a Spring security, right. So here just we have disable our security sensitivity, right. So here if I close this, then, and if you now application has started, right, and here if you make it true, sensitivity as true, right, and after that you will try to access it, right, then this will not be anymore accessible, right. So if I go and hit, then saying that unauthorized, right. So this is asking me to supply the username and password, right. This is sensitive basically, right. So how to access now my-env? To secure the actuator endpoints, you will have to include a Spring security related starter dependency in your form.xml. So what I will do, I'll go to the form.xml, and here you will have to basically add group ID is almost similar, and artifact ID is Spring Boot Starter, hyphen security, right. Sorry. And that's it. Now you can see the console. Now your application is getting started because we have added new dependency. So all dependency related to the Spring security is getting downloaded from the central repository, and that will be added in the Maven dependency. So let's wait for a few seconds. That is getting updated. Our project is getting updated. So our application is started now, and in a Spring Boot, including this dependency, right, will by once you add these dependencies, now by default a Spring Boot provide inbuilt form-based authentication with the username as user and randomly generated password. So if you look into the console, then you will see a randomly generated password, right? So to access now all your actuator endpoints, you will have to specify the username as user and password what you see on the console, and this is the default password, right? Default security password, right? uh, so let's try to access now our actuator endpoints. Now if you try to access, then this is showing unauthorized exception. So now this is secured by some username password. So go to the authorization section, and here you have a different kind of authorizations. So one of the authorization is basic auth, and here you need to specify the username as user and password what is generated on the console. So let's copy this password and paste it in the password section, and if you update request, and let's try to access. Now once you specify the username password, you will be able to access this, right? So this is the way to secure your actuator endpoints, right? So but most of the scenario will be not rely on the default generated password, right? You would want to set your own password. So how to do that, right? So how to do that, that's the question, right? So you will have to make some entry. You need to require to enable your basic security to your sensitive endpoints, right? So how we can do that? So here we'll have to make entry like management dot security enable. First of all, you will have to make it a true, right? And second tag will have a security dot basic enabled, and this will have to make again true. And security dot username let's say admin, and security dot user dot password, and let's say root. So now your username is admin and password is root. So this way we can supply our own username and password. Now if I go over here and go to the, so here get, and if you try to access, then again this is saying, so this is saying unauthorized, right? So you need to authenticate with your new username password, and that is admin, and password we have set it as root. So update, and if you try to access, then you will be able to access now, right? Now this is accessible, right? So this way you can set your own username and password rather relying on the default generated password, right? So that's all. Too much learning about the Spring Boot Actuator. So this is the last video on a Spring Boot Actuator, right? So here we have seen how to authenticate, how to expose our actuator endpoints, to protect with some basic authentication, right? To configure in property.xml. But if you want to authenticate it from your Java class, right, then you have also opportunity to do the same. In that class, you will have to create a Java class, and you can have an in-memory authentication or database authentication. You will have to create a class by extending web security configurer adapter. So these things we'll see in the Spring Boot security section, right? So we will have a series of videos on Spring Boot security, so there we'll explore those things. So thanks for watching this video, and this code I'm going to put on the GitHub, and GitHub location you will get in the video description. So see you in next video tutorial.